such an abrupt ending to that intro.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I think we need to do some editing and add more cats.
Yeah. We could do a new intro with more cats. I'm into
Okay.
that idea.
All right, maybe not now because we're both busy. I'm gonna put my glasses on, but it requires me to take my headphones off. So hold,
Got it.
please.
Got it. Yeah, you got to put those glasses on.
Yeah, and of course there's fingerprints all over them. So let me wipe them off. Okay.
Yeah, it helps if you can actually see out of them, right?
Okay, that's better.
Yeah.
Wow, I have a lot. I'm hoping we can get through all of it. If not, we'll jump on tomorrow and do Reckless Ben. I'll do that one last.
Okay.
But wanted to give updates on Lindsay Clancy first,
Okay.
since that's the trial that I'm immersed in. Actually, was just watching with you a really, really great episode of Just to Serve TV. They had a woman who was in McLean Hospital, which is the hospital where Lindsay went for inpatient care.
Yeah.
And she had postpartum psychosis. I think it was psychosis, not depression.
They
But
said,
anyway,
they said she had psychosis. Yeah. She had both.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna watch the rest of it later, but so far it's really compelling. So I'd recommend
Yeah.
it to anybody. All right. So this week on Monday, Ian Whiffen, who I don't know if you remember him from Karen Reed, he was the Cellbrite expert who had to change his technology to suit his needs. I can't see where this company's credible after that, but apparently they are.
Okay.
They work a lot with district attorneys and law enforcement, which is scary. But it is what it is. Anyway, he didn't add anything substantial, and the prosecution rested after that. Now, so the defense started their case.
Right.
They had an emergency room doctor. They had some of Lindsay's colleagues. They had Lindsay's mother-in-law, Dr. Laposada, and Dr. Zeisel. Dr. Laposada appeared on Zoom. Dr. Zeisel was most of the day today cross. Okay. And let me tell you, these prosecutors are so awful. They were kind of awful to Dr. Zeisel and Dr. Laposada, but I mean, it's kind of disgusting to watch, and prepare to be disgusted. I have some videos for you.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, let me bring the first one up. All right, let me just scooch it back a little bit. Okay. I hope you're ready for this.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, there it is.
So I grabbed this because they have it clipped from East Idaho News. East Idaho News is where Nate Eaton is a reporter. He's there in the courtroom. So this is the news outlet he works for.
Okay.
Together.
How about Dawson? Did you take him one-on-one out to?
Not as much. He was younger.
And how about Callan? Did you ever take him out of the house without Lindsay?
No.
And are you aware that Lindsay told one of the therapists that she wasn't close with you as in-laws?
I didn't know that, no.
That she said she doesn't generally allow the in-laws to watch her children?
I did watch the kids.
Okay, but are you aware that she told the therapist that?
No.
Are you aware she told the therapist that she didn't have any particular reason why, and that they don't bug me about it either?
I didn't know any of that.
I mean,
I have a big problem with therapy notes being shared as a part of like evidence. That's
okay, but they are. I have more of a problem with her trying to use this tactic where she's trying to like turn the witness in her favor or get under her skin or something. That's why else would you do that? Or is it to show the jury like, look, she said all these things. She didn't even like her mother-in-law, because she paints it out, right, that the mother-in-law was not a very attentive grandmother.
Right.
And
right.
and she does that for a while up to this point. So like, for what reason? I don't understand it.
I don't get it. I don't get these prosecutors at all.
Well, you're in for another treat. Are you ready for this?
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
This is going to get you hot.
Okay.
I mean, I heard that there were gasps in the courtroom. And a lot of law tubers are saying that this could be a mistrial.
Really?
Yeah. Do you have it up on the stage?
No, it's coming.
Okay.
It hasn't appeared yet.
Maybe let's do a do-over. There
No,
we
here
go.
it comes. Yep, it's up.
All right.
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember breakfast on Christmas Day?
Yes,
Was that at their house or someplace else?
their house.
Okay. And then what did you guys do after breakfast?
We went to church.
And fair to say you've previously testified that breakfast was great
Yes,
and that church was beautiful.
yes,
And in fact, the defendant, she told you that it was great and that she was glad she went to church that day on Christmas Day.
yes, she did.
And then after that, you're aware they went down to Connecticut to see her family.
Right.
Now, are you an active member in the Catholic Church?
Yes,
So you're aware that murder is considered a mortal sin?
Look at that lady's face.
That's terrible.
And the judge is just like, counsel, let me see you over here. Like immediately.
Yeah, no, he wasn't playing around. He didn't give
No.
any time for the
An
defense to
objection.
chime in and object. Yeah, no, that was egregious and uncalled for. Unnecessary. It's like questioning the religious like authenticity of that woman. Say, oh well, you're a Christian, right? Well, you know murder is
Wait,
a mortal sin, right?
you're not allowed to do that. Like you're
Right,
not allowed to bring up this isn't a religious crime.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to bring up someone's religion or use it against someone or weaponize it. And that's exactly what they did. So that's why a lot of people are saying it could be a mistrial. I don't see that happening, but
Yeah.
I mean, the
That's
defense
terrible.
the defense is doing quite well. So I
Yeah.
don't think they exactly want a mistrial.
No. Can they can retry after a mistrial, right?
They would, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me know when that's up.
It's up.
Your Honor, I know this is my witness. They're not saying what I need them to say. Okay. So, ma'am, you're a Catholic, right? Yes, I'm a Catholic. Say about that. What is you know that God told me himself that he hates you? Counselor, approach. Objection. What is it? I don't know. I object. We noticed that a priest was visiting the defendant. All we want is his social security number and address.
Yeah.
Problem. Okay, so you're the medical examiner, right? Great. Why don't you tell me absolutely everything again, but in excruciating detail? Some people cannot handle the truth. Your Honor, can we approach? Approach, Your Honor. Approach.
That was good.
So I had that, and then I mean, we have to laugh or we'll cry, right?
Yeah, right.
And then I found a really nice image, LinkedIn image of the prosecutor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with the other prosecutor.
That's terrible.
They deserve it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think maybe like they just got assigned this case and it's their job to win and not to find the truth, which should be.
That's
within
always the
integrity.
case, though, right? Like they're always looking to win. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I think she might win an all-you-can-eat hot dog
This
contest.
one's out to win at any cost. This
Yeah.
one's like no holds barred, throwing salt in people's eyes. This is ridiculous.
Anyway, so that's just my quick update. You ready to do some Eugene Horsch?
We can, yeah.
All right, so we did talk about him a little bit on
Yes, I am familiar with Eugene Horsch.
Sunday.
He is a interesting character, interesting looking man.
So right now I want to talk about the women that are missing. And then we're going to get into more of his dad, because I think that understanding his dad will make a lot more things clear.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the missing women, Maribel Fresses, has been missing since 2018. She was 27 years old when she disappeared in February of 2018. Her family said she was struggling with addiction around Kensington, which is everything revolves around this area, Kensington. Her sister Melissa told reporters her father had gone looking for Maribel there around the time his family last heard from her. So she was known to be in this house. So she hadn't been publicly connected to the Horsch house, publicly that is, until they began examining the hard drives. They discovered photographs and videos showing her alive inside the Chu house. And then they found photos and images where she appeared to be dead. Her body has not been recovered. So they really feel that this is compelling visual evidence. And I'm going to kind of show you some compelling visual evidence of something like this later. And hopefully we don't get the stream removed because of it. We'll see.
Wow.
Gabrielle Amorando, she's been missing since 2012. So she was 22 years old. And like Fresses, she was not one of the women investigators originally entered the house looking for. They discovered her while retrieving digital material. They say photographs and videos show her alive in the house and then later apparently deceased. No remains were recovered. Her childhood friend Ashley Levin has spoken publicly about her. I'm not going to share all of that, but she said they became friends in third grade and remained close. They drifted apart as adults, and she really became very worrisome about this when nobody heard from her for, a few months. So she did have addiction problems.
Right.
But that's kind of the common thread here, since we were talking on Sunday about how women were lured to make pornographic, they were films that were pornographic kind of, but it wasn't porn. It was more cinematic, I suppose. It was more art and like fetish.
Okay.
But he would give them drugs in exchange for making these movies.
Yeah.
So Amy McHale is another woman. She went missing in 2016. And she was one of the women whose disappearance originally made investigators suspicious of the house. She had been married to Eugene's father.
Ooh.
According to McHale's mother and daughter, on June 13th, Amy left her daughter a voicemail saying she was safe and at the Chu house with R.C. Horsch. That was the last time her mother and her daughter heard from her. Her family suspected for years something happened to her at the house. So far, police have not announced discovering the same type of death imagery involving her. She's straight up missing. And
Right.
the last place she was known to be was inside of this exact property.
Right.
So another one is Blair Tonzelli, and there is a reporting discrepancy with when she went missing. Wasn't that long ago. It was either in 2022 or 2023. She's the woman who triggered this entire investigation.
Yep.
So she struggled with addiction. She had connections to Kensington. Reporting is slightly varied on whether she was seen in 22 or 23, which I said. But when Eugene Horsch was stopped on June 19th, the woman with him had the ID card and her photograph with this lady's name.
Yeah.
So they found additional material that belonged to her at the property, including her bank cards. So that's really, really suspicious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I want to get a little bit more into what they found there.
Okay.
Initial descriptions of this house, it's 120 pieces of ballistic evidence, fake federal credentials, marijuana growing experiment, drugs, hidden areas, compartments, numerous bottles and containers of unidentified chemicals, and a 55-gallon drum connected to hoses and water lines. So what they're saying about the chemicals, and this is why they're saying they're searching these drains,
Yeah.
is, and I'll get into this more, R.C. Horsch, in one of his writings, it was about disposing of a body with chemicals using a drum, right? And
Okay.
he had one hooked up into his sewage system.
Oh.
Right. So, I mean, I think the thought there is somebody could dissolve the body in there and then open it up to drain it into the sewage system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's creepy.
Like, that's insane. So now the investigators have to determine, like, whether the disturbing things they find in the house are connected to
For real.
Eugene, RC, his dad, both men, fictional creative work, actual crimes, a combination of many things.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a big complication. It's basically like an evidentiary nightmare.
RC's dead, right? Or
Yes. Yeah.
Unalive?
He died last year in June.
okay. Yeah.
And he'd been to prison at one point for federal crimes, I think for like drug trafficking or weapons or something like that, something
Right.
fairly serious. So yesterday, CBS Philadelphia reported that they reviewed hundreds of pages of his books. And the material is sexually explicit, violent, disturbing. They said one chapter, RC claims to have murdered a woman and disposed of her body using the chemical process. This is obviously extraordinary considering. So chemical containers plus large drum plus plumbing hoses plus missing women plus images of dead women.
Yeah.
I mean, math problem equals, and it's all inside his former home. But proof of writing, I mean, writing is such a creative process that doesn't mean anything.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, imagine if you were a fiction writer. What kind of fiction do you think you would write?
Right. Something dark, probably.
And I'll mention this again, but what a lot of people are saying is like they can't tell the difference between like what he writes that's autobiographical and what his fiction is because he mixes it all together.
That's the thing, is that the fact that he talked about a specific method of disposing of a body and then his house mimics the equipment for that method, it's hard not to tie that together, right? Like, could be fiction, but why else would he have all that stuff in his house?
One piece of evidence they found is something they're calling the Ted Bundy letter. They recovered an unsigned handwritten document that references Ted Bundy. It describes planning violence in advance and having a 2-foot zip tie and a drum prepared beforehand. The writer then describes enjoying what happened. Investigators don't know who wrote it or whether it represents fiction.
Right.
So they're not sure. And then just the specifics on the plumbing. In July, police and water department personally evacuated or excavated pipes outside the house, and they didn't find anything substantial. And they're really just trying to sort out this plumbing situation.
Yeah, get someone's DNA somewhere.
but it's interesting because of his writing about chemical disposal of a body, and then you have
Yeah.
these again, 2 + 2 = what?
Yeah.
So there's actually a lot about R.C. Horsch, and I'm going to start sharing some of the things that I found today.
Okay.
So first of all, can you see that?
Yep.
He has an IMDb page.
Right.
Okay. So it says where he was born. It says Pennsylvania.
It's a new place.
So here are his films. Late 2021, Transgressions, Horror, Cecilia's Cancun Vacation, Deleted Scenes, A Serial Killer's Video Journal. And he did that as Ich bin niemand, which means I am nothing. Is that what that means?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I know your German's pretty good. Nina, Slaves, and the Erotic Memoirs of a Male Chauvinist Pig. And he did that back in 1973. So I'm wondering, look at this gap. What was done? What did he do between 73 and 2003?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it says that he was sentenced to a prison term in a federal pen. Whoever wrote this page is not a very good speller.
No, they probably need to
Yeah. No offense to whoever wrote this, but proofread it.
get an editor. Yeah.
Okay, so I do have an interview that R.C. Horsch did.
Really?
Yes, but it's not video, it's all audio. It's okay. But I do have some other stuff that I want to look at first. So let me bring this up. Can you see that?
Yep.
Hey, whenever you put the video up, can you switch this so that it's bigger and we're like in the bottom? Like I always end up switching it.
Yeah.
Can you do that?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is horrornews.net. Obviously, this is old. This is from 2020. So this is before anything happened and before he was dead. So deleted scenes, a serial killer's video journal, right? It is an experimental, unconventional story, almost entirely from the viewpoint of a deeply disturbed sociopathic killer. Now, he stars in this.
What he plays the victim or the
protagonist?
The protagonist? Okay.
Yeah. I believe who's in this movie. In order to fully understand the film, it can sometimes be helpful to take a minute and try to understand the filmmaker behind R.C. Horsch. Writer, photographer, often dealing with the darker side of life. Much of his photography was focused on heroin-addicted prostitutes. Oh, boy. Anyway, his writing, a couple novels, here's the stories. I don't know why they are writing about him, but look at this woman. Can you see her?
Yeah.
She does not look alive.
No. But that could be makeup. I mean, this is from a movie, right?
One of her eyes is open, this right one here. I don't think she's peeking. And I don't think he'd be that good at makeup.
I don't know.
This is very convincing to me. And if we look at deleted scenes back on the IMDb page, which I'm going to check really quick. So I brought up deleted scenes, and Gabriella Amando, who's one of the missing ladies, is in that film.
What?
Yeah. And I think that's her.
Ugh.
So remember when I said what she looked like to me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's him, star of the show.
RC.
Yeah. All of this is presented from the serial killer's point of view. delivered in little pieces that start from his childhood and quickly move forward to present. Along the way, we're shown women being killed in a variety of ways, including drowning, overdosing, neck broken during fellatio, a gunshot into the vajay. Alongside killings, voiceover narration provided by the killer details his lack of empathy. He expresses his belief that he is helping some of these women by killing them, and that they love him so deeply that they are giving him a gift by letting him kill them. And his lack of control. Not only does he say he can't control his obsessions, but he can't control himself when the beast is hungry. The beast, of course, being his unit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
There he is.
Hmm.
Despite the high body count, this is not a blood and gore horror film. Despite the screen time to nude women, it is not a sexy voyeuristic tale. There are moments that seem to have potential to develop into something interesting and then just quickly fizzle away. What we're left with is the narcissistic rantings of a character that we can't and don't want to relate to. So there's that.
Man, that's weird. The fact that that Gabrielle girl's in that movie.
I'm wondering if that's one of the images that they're talking about, but
Yeah, I
it's not
know.
like they found that image in the house. That image has been around.
They don't know that necessarily. I mean, they do now maybe, but they don't know to go around and have people take it down.
So I found the article and I scrolled through it first and looked at the pictures, right? And I stopped on that and I was like, okay, there's no way he's that good at makeup.
Yeah.
That person is not alive. And then I scrolled up to see her name and then I couldn't find it. So I looked on IMDb and it's one of the missing women. So
That's
I'm
great.
pretty sure that that's a real photo.
That's insane, dude. Hiding in plain sight.
Only to be found after his death.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that's awful, 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 awful.
I agree.
Sorry, I did the long eye, but
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Um,
creepy. That's real deal creepy.
so then there's the Anton LaVey connection.
Ah, of course.
This is not on his IMDb, but the Church of Satan's own historical film archive identifies R.C. Horsch, Raymond Horsch, as the filmmaker behind a movie called Black Mass in 1975. So wonder what he was doing in all those years?
Yeah.
He was at least making videos for the Church of Satan and
Yeah.
Anton LaVey. And nothing against the Church of Satan. They get I don't want to say a bad rap, but like people are judgmental about how like evil and awful they are. And if you learn anything about them, they're feminists. That's not really what they represent, but fine.
Yeah, and I'll say Anton LaVey was not. He associated himself with something he referred to as the Church of Satan, and there was the Satanic Bible which he wrote, but that's not necessarily connected to the Church of Satan, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, so I'm
The
actually,
ritualistic aspect of it, he kind of invented that, I think.
I'm actually going to the Church of Satan website right now.
Okay.
Let me know when it's up.
Yes.
Hold on, I'll change it. There we go. All right, so I'm just going to do a Control F and look for his name. Here we go. Black Mass,
Oh, wow.
1975. R.C. Horsch, often listed as Raymond or Ray, is a fascinating character who can claim a unique place in the history of adult films. He is an artist, photographer, director, sometimes actor, and his credits include writing the screenplay for The Erotic Memoirs of a Male Chauvinist Pig, starring Georgia Splevin. And then in a lively interview conducted by Ashley West of the Rialto Report in December 2013, which we have, So are you ready for it?
Yeah.
Okay, because this is long. I don't want to read the whole thing. I encourage anybody interested to read it, but it's all the interview.
And this is RC.
Yeah, this is the dad that's dead,
This
not
is Eugene's
not
dad.
Eugene's dad.
But
So-
it was his house. So when these women went missing, theoretically, he still lived in that house.
yeah, they probably all lived together. Like the son lived with his dad probably, and when his dad died, he got the house.
Right. I'm just trying to say for the timeline of these people going missing, you can't rule out that RC might have had something to do with it as well.
Or that only he had something to do with it.
That too. Eugene could just be a patsy.
Patsy, or he knew, but he wasn't involved, or he was involved. They did it together. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, you figure if you grow up with a parent that would do stuff like that, maybe you're desensitized to it to some degree too. If that's what's going on behind closed doors.
All right. So I'm going to play some of the interview
Okay.
if you're interested.
I'm interested.
All right.
I want to hear what RC has to say.
About sex at all. In other words, it's not about the mechanical insert tab A into slot B kind of thing. It's
I just want to say that this was done by the Rialto report. So find it anywhere you can find a podcast. The Lindsay Show put this on here, which is really, really cool of them. But this is all from this Rialto report. So give them a sub on wherever you listen to podcasts, because putting something like this together is really time consuming. So we need to show them support.
It's about all the garbage and the everything emotional and whatever that surrounds sex. The sex part is almost entirely incidental. I mean, I really love making pornography, for example, but I'm bored silly watching it.
What is it that makes you enjoy making it?
It's almost entirely exhibitionism. It's very much performance art rather than sex.
Do you actually define yourself in any particular way?
I fancy myself an artist. I'm sane enough to realize that that's kind of delusional. I know I'm just a pornographer, and in the rest of the world, there's no separation between sex and pornography. All sex is pornography, and all pornography is sex. If it's sexual, it can't be art, and if it's art, it can't be sexual.
Let's start at the beginning. Where were you born and brought up?
I was born in a little town of Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, which is in the Poconos, in the northeastern section of Pennsylvania.
Well, I mean, what was your upbringing like?
The bottom line is that my parents cannot be blamed for anything, really. I had what I consider a very normal childhood. My mother was, for the early part anyhow, a stay-at-home housewife. My father was a mechanical engineer. I grew up on a farm, very picturesque existence. I spent most of my childhood shoveling shit. I mean, cow shit, chicken shit, which is basically what growing up on a farm consists of doing. It's kind of like an episode from Lassie. No big traumas or anything like that. A very idyllic childhood. I mean, I went to a one-room schoolhouse, occasionally rode a horse to school. I mean, nobody bullied anybody.
And when I looked you up, I saw that your father, who shares your same name, there were quite a few references to him. He was a glider pilot, isn't that right?
Yeah, World War II. He was a glider pilot for the Army Air Corps stationed in London. They were cargo gliders. They were large plywood aircraft. They could hold, for example, a Jeep or maybe 12, 16 troops or something like that. About 6 or 8 of them would be towed aloft behind a DC-3, and then they glide behind enemy lines to deliver their cargo.
How did that work if these planes were just gliders and therefore couldn't take off by themselves?
The aircraft were used just once. It was extremely dangerous because at the end of the flight, there was no airstrip or anything like that. They basically would crash land in a controlled.
Wow.
way. My father said generally you pick two trees and you went between them to shear the wings off and hopefully come to a stop before you hit something else.
So he was pretty fearless.
Yeah, but all of his war stories had nothing to do with that. His war stories all had to do with slipping across the English Channel and smuggling back a plane load of wine or something like that, or champagne.
Did his interest in gliders and aviation spur any interest in yourself?
Yeah, I ended up teaching myself to fly. I bought myself an old Cessna 152, which is like a little two-seat training aircraft. I think I paid $5,700.
So how do you teach yourself?
Well, you read the book and sit in the airplane, start the engine, drive it around the ground a little bit, and then drive it up and down the runway, and then whoops.
Just take off.
One time you find yourself flying, and then you have to get the book out again and figure out how to land it.
You had no fear.
Oh, no, lots of fear. I don't understand this no fear thing. Is an advertising campaign. I mean, without fear is what keeps you from doing things that are really, really stupid. I mean, fear is what keeps you alive. So yeah, no, I had a lot of fear.
What were you like as a kid growing up?
Kind of a hopeless little skinny, totally asocial little nerd.
Were you an only child?
No, I have two sisters.
When do you remember becoming aware of sex?
I cannot remember a time that I wasn't interested in sex. I definitely remember masturbating as early as about 4 or 5 years old. Probably did it before that, but I'm not sure I associate it with sex. I'm not sure I really knew what sex was for the longest while. I remember I was about 11 years old and I came down to the kitchen in the morning and my mother was there and I asked her if that thing about the penis and vagina was true, and she said yes. And I remember thinking how just totally disgusting that was.
Can you remember your first sexual attraction?
My first love really was this 41 Ford four-door automobile that my grandfather had. It was a V8 high off the ground. Tailpipe was about 2 inches in diameter. And if I pulled one or two.
Just want to pause it for a second to say that he's very likable and fairly articulate.
Yeah, he's pretty articulate. I mean, he doesn't sound like he's disturbed or anything like that.
No, and I embrace art. He's an exhibitionist, is how he's trying to portray himself.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with any of that. I don't think
on the surface, I don't have a problem with him either. It's just a matter of
I'd be sticking
missing around his house.
Right. If it weren't for that lady who I'm pretty sure is not alive in that photo that I showed on here.
Yeah.
And all these missing ladies tied to him, I would be defending this person.
Yeah, me too.
Wires off the spark plugs, the engine would sort of chug in a kind of a lumpy, irregular fashion, and you could kneel behind that, and I just fell in love. I mean, it was just, and because I was prepubescent, I did not have an orgasm, so basically the pleasure would just keep going and going and going until just dropped of exhaustion or something like that. My second love was a swimming pool in Stroudsburg, the municipal swimming pool. That had an outlet where the water was pumped back into the pool. It was about 2 feet below the surface, so I could hang on the edge of the pool and quietly pull my pants down.
So wait, neither of these experiences were with anyone else?
That, to me, was sex. I mean, women were really, really kind of an anticlimax.
What were your first experiences with girls like?
This was the 1950s. Girls all wore girdles, stockings with garters. The idea of getting in and out of a girdle was, kind of
a challenge.
Yeah, it basically never happened. I mean, you'd make out and all that kind of stuff, but never allowed to have hands below the waist. And the high point was maybe squeezing a breast through the fabric or something like that. There was maybe one girl in the whole high school who dated, quote, college boys, unquote, and presumably put out. There really wasn't any. Maybe there was sex and I just didn't know, because I was at least 17 before I got laid.
Do you think that these restrictive times maybe contributed to your interest in more transgressive sex later on?
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, from about 17 or 18 on, I became a really obsessive, horny little bastard. I mean, it's just, it did occupy a lot of my waking moments.
What sort of form did that take?
I kind of got started very slowly, like a freight train pulling out of the station or something like that. Once I got going, the train was pretty much unstoppable.
Let's talk about films for a moment. What kind of films were you brought up with? And were you a keen moviegoer?
Well, that was kind of the era of the Saturday matinee at the local movie theater with the Flash Gordon.
Which characters did you identify with in the movies?
I came out of the theater wanting to be the villain. I never wanted to be Tom Mix or Hopalong Cassidy or any of those. I mean, they was like, I just couldn't face the idea of like having to kiss my horse at the end of the show, I just loved the Ming the Merciless character.
So what was it that attracted you to the bad guys then?
I guess I subliminally identified with, because I certainly became a villain later in life.
Was this because you felt rejected from the mainstream in school?
Yeah, but I think I did most of the rejecting. Whatever other kids were interested in, I was just totally did not interest me at all.
How were you viewed by others?
I would be described as a nonconformist, which was a pejorative term in those days. I never wanted to be like the other kids. In other words, I never wanted to be part of any kind of in-group or anything like that. The group that I did identify with were all the misfits, the homosexuals, the artsy-craftsy crowd, and that sort of thing.
Were you actually rebellious, do you think, against authority at that stage, or was it just more passive?
Oh, no, absolutely rebellious. In the third grade, I refused to stand for a prayer at the beginning of class. I would leave the room. And again, remember, this was the 1950s.
Oh, boy. What were the consequences of that?
There was a big outcry, and I was sent home. And I know my father came back to the school and told the principal that I was entirely within my rights and to back off. My father could be very forceful that way. And after that, I just got up and left the class every morning.
It became a regular thing.
Yeah, it was just something that, the weird kid's going to stand outside now. And
Was there something about you that liked being the weird kid then?
oh, yeah, I absolutely wanted to be different. Whatever everybody else was doing, I did the opposite. I mean, I grew up in the 60s. Everybody was doing drugs. Everybody was smoking pot. Everybody was drinking. And because everybody else was doing it, I did not drink. I did not do drugs.
What did you like doing?
Doing anything that was vaguely creative. I mean, I played around with cameras. I don't think I had a very good eye for composition back then. I don't think any of the photographs that I took were in any way memorable, but I became fascinated with techniques and that sort of stuff. I know I had an old 8x10 view camera, used to develop and print my own pictures, that sort of thing. I was very self-contained in that way.
Was it an early intention of yours to do something in the film industry from your teen years?
Not really. I kind of fell into it. One summer, I think I was about 14 years old, I started hanging out down in Center City, Philadelphia on Sansom Street, a place called Lewis Kellman Studios. And there was a troupe came through town that was making a movie. It was called The Burglar, and they kind of like rented studio facilities. I got to be a gopher.
That was with Jane Mansfield and her then husband, Mickey Haggerty, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Ah, what do you remember about Jane Mansfield?
To me, she seemed kind of nice. Everybody else considered her like a stone bitch, you might say. The guy who owned the studio was an older gentleman, and she played him mercilessly. I mean, just got him to give her gifts, and I think he even gave her a diamond. I don't really have a lot of specifics. The only thing I really remember is that she had really big boobs.
After you graduated from high school in 1961, what did you end up doing?
Working for an outfit called Wackenhut, which was a brand new company at the time, a security firm staffed by FBI agents and that. And what I did for them, again, I was 21, I bugged telephones and committed burglaries for them. The burglaries were mostly to install electronics or bug telephones or just things like burglarizing a potential client to demonstrate that their security was not up to par.
So how would these jobs typically work?
I was freelance. They called me in on a job and they briefed me and I'd meet the client. And one of the frequent clients at the time was this Mr. Smith, who was in fact H.L. Hunt, who was at the time with the CIA. This is before Watergate, which means that Wackenhut was a CIA front organization and they were using me to do things that they didn't want to get caught doing, that they could deny.
Of course, Howard Hunt would become famous in the 1970s as the person who engineered the Watergate burglaries. Did you have direct contact with him when you were at Wackenhut?
I met him all the time. He was the customer. He was the customer who would come in and describe the job. He was introduced to me as the customer. I mean, there were quite a number of different customers. He was one of them. At the time, he was introduced as his private customer when it later turned out he was a very active CIA agent, which means that at the time, I must have been working for the CIA, although I didn't realize it. So it was kind of a fun James Bond type resistance. A lot of fun. I mean, just wow.
What made it so much fun?
Oh, I got to do like a big job at Fairchild Hiller Aircraft in Hagerstown, Maryland. I basically backed a truck up and stole 30 cabinets of top secret documents. I also stole their company aircraft.
How do you do that?
Well, that was kind of like a magic trick. I ended up just towing it across the airport from their hangar into another hangar. I hid it in another hangar on the other side of the airport. I didn't actually fly it out.
What were some examples of the jobs you did?
One was this fellow in Trenton, and I can't for the life of me remember his name, but he was the head of the American Nazi Party, and he wanted his telephones bugged because he thought his employees were stealing from him and doing things behind his back. And apparently my employers, i.e. the CIA at the time, thought, okay, this is a great opportunity. He wants to have his telephones bugged so he can listen to his employees, but while we're bugging his telephones, we'll put another little tap on the line so we can listen to him.
What kind of bugging devices were you installing?
A lot of technology was invented on the fly. So it was very exciting for me to, first of all, have unlimited resources to play with the technology. And what I thought was immunity and freedom, a license to do whatever the hell I was doing, living this kind of James Bond existence. For a 21-year-old kid, it was a lot of fun.
How long did you end up doing this kind of work?
I quit, I guess, around 1965 when they passed a law making wiretapping a federal crime. I kind of figured, okay, it wasn't worth it anymore. Consequences of getting caught were too great. Any of those actions today would probably earn a couple of life sentences in prison or something, you know.
Did you ever come close to getting caught?
Yeah, sure. I was bugging the home of a girlfriend of a Philadelphia politician named Crumlish, and I was in her kitchen. I had the phone apart on the kitchen table, installing what's called an infinity bug in it, and she came home. At an awkward moment, she asked me what I was doing, so I said I was from the telephone company. I was fixing her phone, and I'd be done in a few minutes. And she said, fine, made me a cup of coffee, and I finished bugging her phone, put it together, and left.
What happened to Wackenhut after that?
Wackenhut is now a very large company, ironically, in the private prison business. They own and operate a lot of private prisons.
At the same time as all this, the Vietnam conflict was taking place. I presume you were called up to serve.
Yeah, I got my notice at, I guess I was just turned 18, my 1A draft notice. Immediately started fishing around for deferments. I had a series of occupational deferments. When the occupational deferments ran out, this was probably around 1964, I got married. Very shortly after getting married, the marriage deferments were canceled. I went through the whole bit about trying to become a conscientious objector. I told him that I was a devout coward, for example. I told the recruiting sergeant, who was this grizzled old Welshman named Wetzel, but I told him how much he turned me on. That didn't work.
Were your objections political or personal?
Absolutely no political motivation at all. All I really cared about was saving my own rear end.
Sure.
I had friends getting shot, coming home in body bags. I did not believe in the war. I did not believe in the government, just the whole thing. So it was just purely personal reasons. When I say that I was a devout coward, that's probably very close to the truth.
So eventually you run out of deferments and you get enlisted.
I ended up joining the Pennsylvania National Guard. I had a 6-year commitment.
How did you make out?
The 5 years that I spent in the National Guard were kind of colorful, and my career was very unusual in that my rank very rarely rose above private.
How did it turn out?
I have 2 dishonorable discharges, which is technically difficult to do. I was supposed to report to active duty in the regular Army, which I just simply didn't do. And at that point, I became a deserter.
So what does that mean then?
A lot of people were leaving the country, going to Canada and that kind of stuff. I didn't do anything. I continued to live and work in Philadelphia. I didn't change my life in any way. And there were pretty much no consequences during that whole 6-7 year period. The only problem I ever had once was I was driving to New York, and I pulled over at a rest stop on the New Jersey Turnpike to take a nap, and a state trooper tapped on the window, and apparently you're not allowed to rest at rest stops on the New Jersey Turnpike. So he ended up doing a check, found out that I was an Army deserter, and he drove me to Fort Dix, which is only about 10 miles away, and deposited me with the provost marshal there.
How does being a deserter for years eventually get resolved?
Ended up getting a presidential pardon under Jimmy Carter's amnesty program.
Ah, that was back in 1975, I guess, was it?
Yep, yes.
Interesting. And you were married all this time as well. How did that work out?
I got married at 21 to my high school sweetheart. And like most young, she was 19, I was 21. It was a big mistake. It lasted maybe about 5 years.
In the late 1960s, you start your career in film and television by getting work in the local studio in Philadelphia. So how did that happen?
I started gravitating toward that industry. I was an animation cameraman. They had a huge old Oxbury animation camera there. So I ran the animation department at the studios for a while. I was into special effects. There was all this stuff going on at the time, and everybody there wanted to be the next big director. Everybody wanted to be Orson Welles, but very few people did.
How did you pick up the skills necessary for this work?
Trial and error, asking people to show me how to do things. At that time, I also started directing small children in TV commercials. The technique I used at the time was to sit next to the camera, interact with the child. You're talking about 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old kids and play a game where I would say something and then they
This is really interesting.
Yeah.
He doesn't. I mean, this caption says sociopathic villain, but like,
Yeah, that's very hyperbole, right? Like,
yeah,
first of all, he's not guilty of anything yet. He's not even suspected of anything yet.
he can't
And it
ever be
sounds
guilty.
like
He can't ever be found guilty of anything because he's dead.
well, but they could figure out that he was the one that did something and ascribe guilt to him for it. But my point is that it hasn't happened. He's not necessarily a sociopathic villain. We don't know anything about him. He doesn't sound like a sociopath. He sounds like a very articulate person.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he'll sound like a sociopath as this goes on. But so far he doesn't. He just sounds like an artist.
Yeah.
All right.
mimic me. And then I'd say it a little bit differently and they'd mimic me and just keep going that way until got the line right. The technique kind of worked. A lot of TV commercials back then.
How much did you enjoy the work?
I enjoyed being around the film industry. I realized that this was actually not the film industry. This was just kind of like little local pocket of activity. It was all a bunch of wannabes. And I kind of came to recognize myself as a wannabe and kind of hated myself for being, I did not want to be a wannabe. I wanted to be the real thing.
And did that mean leaving Philly and moving to New York?
Yeah, aside from TV news, the only film operation in Philadelphia at the time was NFL Films. I worked for them off and on, but I pretty much hated football. I was a line cameraman at a couple of games, but I got fired because I was filming the cheerleaders' rear ends instead of the action on the field. So yeah, you had to go to New York. New York was an hour and a half commute, so no big deal.
How did you make money in New York?
I had a wonderful career as a fashion cosmetic photographer in the early 70s in New York. There couldn't be a better occupation. Photographers then and now were the gateway to the modeling and fashion industry. Any woman who wanted to get an appointment, even to show her portfolio at a modeling agency, had to go through a photographer. She had to have compelling, striking photographs.
Why didn't this career take off?
I sabotaged it because I could not deal with art directors. When I was fairly young, I'd gotten this job with a technical company, and I was being introduced around all the people in the department where I was supposed to start working. Along the line, I was introduced to Mr. So-and-so, my superior. That kind of hit me. My what? The idea that someone was my superior. And I turned around and walked out. I just couldn't face doing the job. And that whole industry being one small, close community, I think within 48 hours, every job that I had scheduled was canceled and my career was over.
Another way you made
That
money
might be
this time
mildly
was using your
sociopathic.
skill as a pilot.
That was around the early 70s. Flying.
What?
That was mildly sociopathic.
What was?
He got a job and someone was referred to as his superior, and he got so offended with the idea of someone being his superior that he walked out on the job.
I mean, I'm sure he's had a lot of superiors when he was in the military.
Maybe, but it's just pointing it out. They did call him a sociopathic villain. That was mildly sociopathic.
A lot of people I've heard throughout the course of my life say about working that their goal is to work for themselves. They don't want to have to work for anyone else. And I'm guessing it's for a similar reason. Like they want to have something that's theirs and they don't want to report to someone. And especially if you're like making art, like, you know, if you're the photographer, he wants to be able to be the big shot. So I don't know. Maybe art directors he feels don't do much, and for them to boss him around when they're doing none of the work, like maybe it was too much for him. So again, I'm not really feeling the sociopathic villain about this yet.
What you euphemistically call unscheduled freight. Yeah, I used to go down, pick up as much marijuana as I could fit in the plane, fly it back over the border, usually through the mountain passes and that kind of stuff south of El Paso. I'd fly up into Texas, sometimes into Arizona, New Mexico to a prearranged rendezvous.
I wonder if all these this doesn't sound like when did he learn how to fly a plane?
He talked about that.
Right. He said before he didn't fly a plane out of a hangar. He moved it from when he stole planes or broke in and burgled for a living.
No, he talked about learning how to fly a plane and how like you start by reading the manual and then you drive it around on the ground and then eventually you take off and you have to read the manual again to figure out how to land.
I'm starting to think that maybe he's just a good storyteller and not all of these stories are his. But-
Maybe. I think he's probably not a psychopathic killer. I mean, I don't know. Like, if he is, that's another side of his personality that he's not displaying here. He's not like sometimes we see in cases like these, like what was the case where they had all those kids in the room?
Oh, the Siders family.
Right, and it's you kind of get the vibe like that this was a similar situation. I don't think this guy was like a Siders guy. He seems pretty intelligent and he seems pretty articulate. And I think he was
Yeah.
probably just a fringy dude, which I've known a lot of fringy people in my life. And there's no saying for sure. Like that's what's so difficult about this is it's hard to say for sure if he crossed lines and blurred those lines or not.
Let's keep listening to him and see what else we get out of this because this is a long interview.
Just out
We're going to hear this guy's life story.
in the desert to be a guy with a pickup truck, and I'd fly over and dump the stuff out of the plane. I wouldn't even land. I just dump the stuff out of the plane. I'd fly back and land.
What did the law enforcement agencies make of this?
The government, who had been watching the borders every once in a while, would pretty much knew exactly what I was doing. They tear the plane apart. In fact, they destroyed a couple aircraft on me, looking for it. They never quite found anything.
Did you meet many other people doing this at the time?
I knew George Jung while he was still doing marijuana before he got into the cocaine business with Pablo Escobar. And I knew one of the pilots who worked for him, who was also the same pilot who filmed the final helicopter shot in Easy Rider.
Can you paint a picture of what it was like doing this?
There's one scene in that movie, what was it called, Blow or something?
Yeah, with Johnny Depp.
Yeah, where he's landing a 182 in Mexico. That probably could have been one of my landings down there. I mean, they got that one scene at absolutely right, landing on a road and fueling the thing out of drums and that kind of stuff.
What was the best part of it?
I don't smoke marijuana, so I was in it for the flying. I loved the flying. It was just a game. I could down, pick up a load. This was kind of before the DEA was actually really in existence. They didn't have a lot of resources. The first thing they sent up, they bought this old twin engine Piper Apache aircraft, and they'd try to follow me with it. And I'd be flying these Alaskan type bush planes, a Molly, and planes that are really designed for rough mountain flying and all that kind of stuff. I could slow down to like 40 miles an hour, and this Apache couldn't go slower than about 80 or 90 miles an hour. So they kept having to pass me, and they'd wave. That went on for a while, and they bought themselves a helicopter, and they could pace me in the helicopter, and I'd have to engage in actual aerobatic maneuvers and that sort of thing. Then one day I was flying back, and I look up, and the helicopter's flying beside me, about maybe 50 feet off the wing, really close. They had the door off the helicopter, and there's a guy sitting there with 2 feet on the skid, sitting half in, half out of the helicopter, and he has an M16 in his lap. He's pointing down at the ground, like they wanted me to land. And about that time, it just all of a sudden wasn't a game anymore. It wasn't fun. If they're going to start shooting at me, then that's about the time I quit. And just for the benefit of all the federal agents who might be listening, everything I'm describing is well past the statute of limitations.
Oh, you gotta mute that.
Yeah. All right. What I'm going to do is I don't know when it's going to come back on, so I'm going to remove it until the song's over. What is that? Iggy Pop?
Yeah. Iggy and the Stooges. It's a good song, but we can't play it.
Yep.
TV Workshop, the company that produces Sesame Street, making live action clips, little 2-3 minute live action films for the show. That was a time when everybody was doing stuff for Children's TV Workshop. I mean, it was just the place that was providing employment for everybody. It was the most alive, vibrant operation going at the time. And if you had an idea, they'd give you a couple $100 to do it.
From Sesame Street to adult films, what was your first experience on a pornographic film set?
It was something that absolutely never crossed my mind. First of all, I didn't have the looks for it. I didn't have the build for it. I didn't have the body for it. I did have the other required physical requisite, but it wasn't something, gee, I'm going to go to New York and become a movie star or something like that. That would have been considered absurd. Anyway, I had a friend who was a sound man, and I was supposed to meet him for a couple beers, and he was on a job that turned out to be a porn set in an apartment. I believe it was on the east side.
What do you remember about the set that day?
God, I have these fragmentary memories about what's going on. This actress walking around completely naked with a raccoon tail hanging out of her rear end and all this activity. I know they had a blimp 35 millimeter Aeroflex camera, which is a huge piece of equipment, and a crew of probably 8-9 people working on the set.
Do you remember any of the actors?
I do remember specifically that the male actor was Herb Stryker.
Who was Harry Weems?
Harry was doing a pop shot, and the camera jammed and he couldn't stop himself, and it was kind of like gone. And this was late in the day. Everybody wanted to pack up and go home. And of course, no matter how studly the actor or anything like that, he was only any male actor is only good for one good pop shot. So I kind of mentioned to my friend that, hey, I could do that. And they kind of looked at me and like, get lost, kid. And you have to remember that at the time, there's a small cadre of male actors who get consistent work. And the reason they get consistent work is that they can get erections and come pretty much on cue, and they can be counted on to perform. And that was especially true back then with 35 millimeter cameras, with film going through the camera at 90 feet a minute. I mean, it's kind of like expensive. So the idea of somebody walking on a set saying, I could do that, is sort of like, I mean, standing around naked with a dozen people watching you, checking their watches and all this kind of stuff and saying, okay, kid, do it, is kind of intimidating. The people that can do it were probably more like myself, and it was the exhibitionism that drove them rather than the sex. In other words, the reason they could get an erection and perform with everybody standing around watching is because that's what they were getting off on.
So no one took your offer seriously?
The director did not want to risk a roll of film on an unproven talent. So I stood basically in the middle of the room, naked, holding a towel in front of me. And I told him to count backwards from 10, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. And when he reached 0, I dropped the towel, which hung on kind of an instant erection. That got me the job.
So you just stepped up and they rolled the cameras?
I went in and did the pop shot. And when I did the pop shot, just about everybody had gone home. It was just me, the director, the cameraman, the female talent was gone. And anyway, it was successful. And a week later, I got another call, and then one call after that.
Do you remember receiving a payment for that?
I remember very vividly that I was paid $100. And in 1969, $100 was like real money. That would be like over $1,000 today. So there I was, this ugly, nerdy little kid getting paid $100 to have sex with really beautiful women. And life was good.
Do you remember the first time you had to act on film?
The first acting job I got was, and this was a big stretch, a deranged mad rapist. I remember it was shot on a stairwell, and it was very, very athletic. I was chasing the girl down the stairs, and I had to vault over the rail and land in front of her. And then on the next take, I had to rip her panties off. Actually, I think a switchblade was involved. I remember doing it. I don't remember the name of the picture, and I certainly don't remember ever seeing the picture. But that was the first time I actually had any kind of a dramatic role.
Between the loops and films at the time, how much work did you end up getting?
I would probably do, for a while there, 1 or 2 jobs a week. It was never a full-time job, but it was a lot of fun, and it was good money.
Apart from Harry Reams, who stood out that you worked with?
Oh, wow. I think I met Tina Russell. It's where I made a lot of the contacts that I later used for Male Chauvinist Pig.
Let's talk a little bit about New York. What was New York like at this time?
42nd Street was still 42nd Street. It wasn't Disney World.
Did you hang out there much?
Yeah, before I even moved to New York, I used to come up to the sex clubs there every once in a while. I had a girlfriend who was a medical student at the University of Pennsylvania, and we'd come up to this place. I think it was on the same block as B.B. King's, on the second floor. It was kind of like a bar club with a guy out front shilling tourists off the street inside, naked girls, that kind of stuff. The stage was a raised platform in the middle of the room, actually not raised that far, about a foot off the ground, and about 8 foot square. And in the center of the stage was this old ratty mattress, and they would have people doing just any kind of weird thing. A girl shooting ping pong balls out of her vagina. A girl named Summers, she had an act with a boa constrictor. There were a couple interracial sex acts. And my girlfriend and I used to go up on weekends, and for $40, we'd have sex on this mattress in front of all these people and get paid $40 for it.
What was your angle? What did you do that was unusual?
Nothing all that unusual, except that we kind of would work this slave girl motif where I'd slap her around a bit and have what was very rough sex. So I guess the angle there was the idea of rough sex and treating a woman very badly.
What was it that you liked about that?
What's not to like? I was always interested in kind of the fringes of sexual activity, especially as to what was acceptable or not. I kind of loved it. The whole atmosphere was exciting, and I used it as an outlet for my own exhibitionism.
What do you remember about the grindhouse theaters in Times Square?
There were any number of theaters. I didn't frequent them. I walked past them. I mean, watching movies of people having sex was not anything that I was even vaguely interested in, except once I took a date to one because I was in the film. I had done an insert in the film, and I remember pointing up to the screen with this 8-foot penis on the screen saying, "That's me." And she said, "No, it isn't," and refused to believe me.
Now, how did you get the idea to make your own porn film, The Erotic Memoirs of a Male Chauvinist Pig, which you shot back in Philadelphia?
Well, I had a close friend at the time, John Butterworth, who was a cameraman for KYW in Philadelphia, a TV station. He was a news cameraman, and we talked about making a film.
what seduced us wasn't really any specific film, but just the idea of making a film. It was more like, look at us, we're making a movie, than the actual content of the movie.
Where did the money for the film come from?
This Italian gentleman named Sam the barber, who put up some extra money that he had laying around in the shoebox behind the bar. We're talking about organized crime. Everybody in the mafia either ran a bar or something like this, or had some kind of operation going. So Sam ran a bar called the Bag of Nails at 13th and Locust in Philadelphia. He put up the money for a male chauvinist pig. He put up about 60-70% of the money, and I put up the rest. I kind of borrowed it from the family.
Can you remember how much the budget was?
Yeah, we spent just a little over $20,000 on it, and most of that was for film and processing fees. We got the use of an Eclair camera, which was a 16mm quiet camera, a very innovative camera at the time because it was lightweight, self-contained, and made very little noise. The choice was between that and more cumbersome rigs, a camera called an Oricon and others that the TV news stations used and all that.
And you were shooting on 16mm, were you?
Yeah, it was all 16mm negative. The negative had to go to New York to be processed. There was not a color lab in Philadelphia at the time other than NFL Films, and they declined to be involved.
How did you come up with the plot and the script?
It was almost made up as we went along. We started filming with a general idea of what we're going to do, got the talent together. Georgina came into town for 3 days, and she was coming in the next day. We didn't have anything organized except her and the fellow playing Barney and his wife, and we had to come up with an idea for the film. And I know we just kind of started shooting, and almost immediately the idea crystallized. I mean, we had the general idea that, okay, this is about a guy between his fourth and fifth marriage, and he was marriage phobic. And then toward the end, we started filming things specifically to tie stuff together. Tina Russell became available, and gee, what can we do with her? There was this very young-looking girl. What could we do with her? And the obvious idea was, okay, she'd be a schoolgirl in a Catholic schoolgirl's uniform.
The film contains lots of taboo elements. What do you remember about them?
The film contains everything that you can't do. It contains rape, bondage, S&M, sex with an underage girl, urination, Georgina being urinated on and then loving it. In general, it was conceived as kind of a typical love story.
What was your intention in pushing all of these buttons?
I'm not sure that I had an intention. To me, everything, it just seemed like a neat thing to do at the time.
Did you know that you couldn't do many of these things on film?
No, nobody told me. And actually, you could back then. It's just that you can't now. You have to remember, this film had its the premiere. The actual premiere was not in New York, but it was in Philadelphia. It was at the premiere was at a mainstream theater called the 1812, which was at 1812 Chestnut Street in the center of Philadelphia, a mainstream theater. My girlfriend at the time was the wife of one of the district attorneys in Philadelphia. And this was filmed at her house. At the premiere, all kinds of people from the district attorneys.
Are you falling asleep?
No.
Okay.
No,
I thought your eyes were closed.
Office came. There was even a searchlight outside and everything.
What did they think of it?
They kind of loved it. I mean, there was no hue and cry or outrage or anything like that. I think the audience was sophisticated enough for that opening that they accepted it as a comedy. Later, when Sam Lake started distributing the film and it went around on the porn circuit, it was not accepted as a comedy. The audience wanted to go in and jerk off, which again was parodied in the film. The scene where Barney is in the theater, and a totally empty theater, where the pervert comes in, wanders in, sits down in the seat adjacent to him, starts masturbating under a newspaper. Meanwhile, Barney is looking up at the screen, which you don't see. It's only on the soundtrack, and there's his girlfriend performing unnatural acts. The soundtrack had just about every animal in the jungle in it, including the MGM lion. So, I mean, there was that scene which was parodying adult movie theaters. And the people going to adult movie theaters probably were not interested in humor. I mean, we kind of like went through everything we could lampoon and put it in the film. It was never accepted as a porn film. It was never really accepted as a comedy. It was always like something in the middle. And the fact that over the years it's gained an audience is something that kind of actually amazes me.
Some of the scenes seem to be shot on location, like the scene in the hospital. How did that come about?
The emergency room where we shot was actually the emergency room at the University of Pennsylvania Hospital on a Sunday evening.
So did you get permission, or it was just literally shot?
We got permission to film a little scene from a student film. Other than that, they didn't have a clue what we were doing.
Was there a reaction from family or friends to the fact that you had made this film?
Well, it was never mentioned to my family. My sister was thoroughly embarrassed by it.
Even though she'd appeared in it?
Yeah, well, she was kind of conned into it. She didn't know what she was doing. I mean, she was not told what she was doing. She was not. Maybe I still am often duplicitous in that area, and that when I want to do something, I'll tell people whatever I think they want to hear in order to achieve my ends. I'm often unscrupulous in that respect.
Any regrets?
No.
Yeah, right there. That's a bit sociopathic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, of course not.
The end justifies the means.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can you think of any other examples where you've done that?
Oh, boy, it's hard to think of an example where I didn't. I'm being a little silly because my relationships with models and actresses and collaborators was really built on trust. That said, I have this nature where I sometimes violate that trust. I've done that on a number of occasions where I've taken some images and where I figured the picture was so compelling that I figured the artistic content trumped whatever promises I might have made. I usually explain myself away or rationalize myself away by using the old Hindu story about the lady and the snakes.
What's that?
A woman befriends a snake, takes it in, nurses it back to health, and then when the snake is healthy again, it bites the woman and kills her. And in her dying breath, she asks why, and the snake replies, because I'm a snake.
How did you come to sell the film?
Well, we made the film without any thought whatsoever concerning distribution. In other words, we just forged blindly ahead and assumed that that would happen. And it kind of didn't. We found out that theaters were owned by chains and the chains were controlled by certain political groups. Again, I'm kind of using euphemisms there. So the distribution, the contact with Sam Lake was arranged through the mafia in Philadelphia through Sam the Barber.
And how much did you sell it to Sam for?
Sold to Sam for exactly $50,000.
So it's a good profit from a budget of 20,000.
Yeah.
Did you ever meet Sam?
A couple of times, yeah. Had Sam, and he had an assistant. I'm trying to remember his name.
Bobby Sumner?
Sounds right, yeah.
What was Sam like?
Oh, Sam was like straight out of Central Casting. I mean, he was like just a total caricature of himself.
Do you have any idea how successful it was afterwards?
Well, Sam was always complaining that it didn't make any money, but I know for a fact that Billboard had a chart that came out every week of the top grossing films in the country, and Male Chauvinist Pig reached number 42. And the figure that I got, I don't know how true it was or not, that Sam ended up making $4 or $5 million from the film.
I presume Sam the Barber was happy with his share of the profits?
No, because he never really made as much money as he thought he was going to make. And right after that, we made several other films in Philadelphia that again made money, but not to the extent that they were used to making money. If they had been in the distribution business, then they would have been happy. But they were not in the distribution business. They were like an intermediary cog.
What were the other films you made in Philadelphia afterwards?
I know there was one that was kind of a travelogue called Miss Terry Takes a Liberty. And that was filmed in and around all the historical monuments. The only plot was this young girl who comes to town and wants to see the sights, and she's kind of runs into all these characters who take advantage of her. The plot for that was lifted just about directly from Terry Southern's Candy, which he lifted from Candide. So,
what did you do with your share of the profits?
I took the money I made from erotic memoirs and a couple of the other films, and I made this unfortunate Black Mass film. Kind of lost all the money, made it, lost it, and ended up back at ground zero and slipped into a really deep.
Black Mass is the film for the purchase.
Film, yeah.
Yeah.
Depression, which really just kind of closed that era of my life.
What was that film called, by the way?
It was called Black Mass.
And was that an adult film as well?
It was a literal Catholic Black Mass in Latin.
That you just filmed from start to finish?
It was done cinematically, scene to scene.
Sure.
A literal Black Mass in Latin. And strangely, not many of the film-going audience at the time spoke fluid Latin, and the film kind of bombed.
It actually came out in the cinemas, though, did it?
Yeah, it had one screening, and then the Catholic Archdiocese in Philadelphia actually had the whole run of the film canceled. They had quite a bit of clout back then, but I still have the film rights to Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible. I purchased the film rights to that for, I think, $150.
The choice of filming a Black Mass seems strange. What was the attraction to you of that?
Something to do that was contrary. I mean, something to get me
in trouble.
Something to get me into trouble, yeah.
You mentioned suffering from depression after this.
Yeah, really, really deep depression that lasted for about a year. I was editing a pen.
In the cinemas, though, did it?
Yeah, it had one screening, and then the Catholic Archdiocese in Philadelphia actually had the whole run of the film canceled. They had quite a bit of clout back then, but I still have the film rights to Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible. I purchased the film rights to that for, I think,
Why did that
$150.
skip?
I don't know.
Little auction houses, Christie's, Sotheby's, a place called Freeman Fine Arts here in Philadelphia. I would never represent them as a Picasso etching. I would kind of take them to the auction house and say, look, I found these up in my grandmother's attic or something like that. What do you think? And they were the ones who authenticated them and declared them to be genuine and sold them. I'm not sure that would have been much of a legal defense or anything like that, but they were all sold through legitimate auction houses.
And I presume that when it's been sold once, everyone loses interest in having to prove its authenticity.
The whole art forgery thing has a dynamic in that once a forgery is on the market and sold as genuine, it's in absolutely no one's interest to declare it a fraud.
Sure.
The person who bought it would lose their money. The auction house, the expert who authenticated it would lose their reputation. So once something is declared genuine, it's going to be genuine.
And what kind of volumes of forged etchings did you produce?
Not a whole lot of volume. The etchings were back then were fairly valuable. What happened since I did that was, first of all, Picasso died, and he left trunks, just steamer trunks, full of unsigned etchings. And his family started signing them with a rubber stamp and flooded the market, which
Took away the value.
yeah, it just completely took away the value. The market was just completely destroyed by the family's greed.
In terms of the banknotes, how would you get these into circulation? Would you use them yourself, for example, to buy things?
I never really thought that far ahead. I mean, my whole focus was on the technical part. Cash registers at the time had these ultraviolet lights, and stuff printed on ordinary paper would fluoresce under the ultraviolet light, and U.S. currency wouldn't. So I had to cross the technical hurdle of making sure that the bills did not fluoresce, just like the genuine ones. Genuine currency had red and blue fibers embedded in the paper. I had to be able to duplicate that. So the whole thing became an exercise in the technical aspects, which is what consumed me. And I really just didn't think about the consequences or how incredibly stupid what I was doing was.
So you had this activity forging banknotes, Picasso etchings, and title documents. Were you doing it all yourself?
Yeah, no, I was doing it all myself. And actually, doing the U.S. currency was an afterthought and very, very stupid because I probably could have gone on forever, made a lot of money, except for that. Whenever a new counterfeit bill comes on the scene, the Secret Service just jumps on it with every resource that they have.
So we're to believe that he's an accomplished pilot and a pornographer and a money forger, a drug smuggler,
Renaissance man.
Yeah, I feel like this guy very convincingly is full of shit.
I don't.
Yeah, I do.
So I ended up going to prison for 2 years and got out about 75.
How did you get caught?
I'm not really certain. I think it was just a regular traffic stop, and I happened to have about $10,000 in the car. And for some reason, the police searched the car and found them, called the Secret Service. And I was taken down to this is in Center City, Philadelphia, the Secret Service office. And they kind of grilled me all night long, and they offered me this deal. They said that they weren't interested in me. They were interested in the printer. And if I gave up the printer, I wouldn't go to jail. So I said, okay. And they woke up this judge at 3 o'clock in the morning and signed the agreement that I would be granted immunity if I gave up the printer. So the agreement was signed, and I said, I'm the printer. Again, wow. I mean, the Secret Service has no sense of humor. And a judge in his pajamas at 3 o'clock in the morning has
Even less.
has even less. Precisely. So that was the end of my printing career.
So you went to jail for, you say, about 2 years then in the mid-70s.
Yeah, I think it was a 24-month sentence, and I served 18 months, yeah.
What was that like?
Well, it was actually kind of fun.
So I believe that he was making counterfeit money. I don't believe that he was making counterfeit Picassos.
It was the 60s. I don't know.
I served a sentence partly in Florida, partly in Allenwood. In Eglin, Florida, the prison was actually a company area, typical military company area on an Air Force base in Florida Panhandle. No walls or anything like that. It was just a series of barracks buildings around a quadrangle and a mess hall in the back.
What were the inmates like?
A pretty colorful lot. I mean, people who had been caught with tramp steamers full of marijuana, 10, 12 tons of marijuana on a tramp steamer, serving just a couple years for it. And the prisoners, you might say, sitting around at night, smoking joints as big as cigars, just like sugar bowls full of pure cocaine.
Did you know anybody on the inside?
One of the inmates was H.L. Hunt.
Your client from back in the phone tapping days. What was he doing?
He was there sitting in the back writing spy novels. I had a job that was out on the base, so I smuggled liquor into him all the time.
Did he recognize you?
No. I described the situation, and he kind of gave me a blank look and said, something about never having worked for the CIA or something like that. And I think I patted him on the shoulder and, said, I understand, Mr. Hunt.
All right. So I'm going to take it off and then put it back when the music stops. So we don't get Iggy popped. All right. So now he's talking about getting out of jail.
this feeling that, wow, I just wasted 2 years of my life and I got to catch up. And my way of catching up was to involve myself in another technical area.
Oh boy, what direction did this take?
At the time, amphetamine was not what it was today. In fact, it was a whole different compound. I don't think what they sell today is actual amphetamine. It's certainly not methamphetamine. But the law was written for a specific molecule. And my idea was to produce an analog. Instead of a monophenylamine, I would produce a dimethylphenylamine, which would have the same pharmacological effect as amphetamine, but would not be illegal. And now the laws have all changed where you can sell somebody a bag of powdered sugar, and as long as you're representing it as cocaine or something like that, you get the same penalty as cocaine. But back then, the laws were not like that. So I had this little laboratory in Philadelphia where I was playing around with the chemistry.
And this was something you taught yourself as well, or did you have partners? And
No, I always pretty much have no one to blame but myself. I have a strong background in chemistry, physics, and actually computer science too. So anyway,
He has a strong background. How?
School.
Like, you glossed over the schooling part, sir. I don't believe this guy. I'm sorry.
I don't have the same level of suspicion for people talking about themselves that you do.
Yeah, but who's usually right about people between you and I?
I don't think that's fair.
But just answer it.
I don't think that's fair. I don't think there's been many circumstances where we've had to question the validity of a person's story.
I think maybe he worked for some people that were making drugs. Okay. But I don't think he just has a strong background and was like, I'm going to make amphetamines on my own with no help from anyone else now. Here we go. Like, it's just not believable. I'm sorry.
puttering around in the laboratory and actually kind of successfully making this diphenylethylamine when all of a sudden they arrested me and claimed that they had found 55 grams of actual amphetamine on filter paper in trash bags outside the laboratory, which they probably did because no chemical reaction is perfect. There are always side effects and all that kind of stuff. So probably as a side reaction, I was producing a small amount of actual amphetamine. So I got arrested for that, and the trial date came up kind of quickly, and I just did not want to go back to jail, so I became a fugitive.
How long had you been out since the previous stretch?
I had probably only been out 4 or 5 months when they arrested me again.
How did you rationalize or justify what you were doing to yourself?
People always ask why you were in jail and that kind of stuff. And my stock answer is that I was in jail because of stupidity. My crime was stupidity, which is pretty much the truth. I mean, I rationalized making U.S. currency because I figured, well, the government turns out worthless papers. Why can't I? I rationalized making amphetamine analogs and that kind of stuff because, well, if Merck, Sharp, and Dome can do it, why can't I? And additionally, telling myself, oh, it's only glorified caffeine anyhow. My views have changed somewhat since then, but that's what I told myself back then.
Were you never tempted to indulge in any of the drug products that you were either creating or shipping?
No. Once when I was in high school, I went with some friends of mine to a party in New York. The party was with homosexual artists, and the apartment was done over in just $1 zillion worth of antiques. And I remember I was sitting on the floor, and I took a few puffs of this joint, and I didn't feel much of anything. And about 10 minutes later, I went to stand up, and I got dizzy, and I knocked over this priceless and valuable Ming vase or something like that, smashed it. That was about the only time I ever knowingly smoked marijuana. Maybe it sounds weird, but I like my head. I like my brain. It's been my primary source of amusement. And I don't really want to do anything to upset that. I mean, it's so twisted and dark and devious and a constant delight.
So what's the first thing you do as a fugitive?
I became a fugitive in '76, actually on my birthday. I left and I was driving down to Florida, and I pulled off the road. I took out my old identification and all that kind of stuff and had a little mock funeral burial ceremony by the side of the road.
And you took on another identity from then on, did you?
Yeah, one of many. But the fact of the matter is that over the next couple of years, I started manufacturing actual methamphetamine in a very, very big way. Between 1979 and the beginning of 1980, I was probably supplying well over half of all the amphetamine in the whole tri-state Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland area.
Whoa.
I invented a whole new process of making it. I turned it into a business. I actually subcontracted out parts of the manufacturing process to legitimate compounding and chemical manufacturing companies. I made a lot of it.
Who would be your main customers?
I guess it went to addicts. I never engaged in street level sales or anything like that. In fact, I only sold it to 2 people. both people that I known for a long time. One who was connected with the mafia in Philadelphia and kind of sold to the Italians, and another who had an in with the pagans and the warlocks and the motorcycle gangs and sold to them. But I remained very much in the background. It was a matter of trust.
How would you distribute the product?
A lot of it I flew myself back and forth across the country because I used to just love flying back and forth over the country, about 50 or 100 feet off the ground, waving to the farmers and that kind of stuff. So I deliver a lot of the product myself.
And how would you get paid?
When money was owed to me, I'd be invited to dinner at this friend's house in Voorhees, New Jersey. This extended Italian family, just kids and grandparents and women in the kitchen cooking big tubs of pasta and all this kind of stuff. And we'd have this great meal. And then when it got time to leave, this friend's wife would say, oh, well, wait a minute. And she'd go into the hall closet and she'd come down with this paper grocery sack and hand it to me, and I'd leave. And it would, it have $250,000 in it.
How would you launder all the money that you got?
Well, money laundering was not a big problem back then. It just wasn't a big problem.
You could just buy things with cash?
I bought a jet aircraft. For Christmas time, used to make these paper chains. You make them out of strips of paper.
Yeah.
And they're folded up. Well, we make these chains to hang around the room out of $100 bills. And little under the tree, there'd be this little Christmas village where stacks of Kruger ants would be the columns and gold bars would be the roofs on these little buildings for the tunnels for the train to go in and out of, and that kind of stuff.
And where was the production facility for making the stuff?
I built a house on top of a mountain in the Sierra foothills, and I ended up doing most of the stuff there.
Was it a complex process?
The reactions that I designed were extremely simple. All the hard work was done by subcontractors. So all I had to do really was mix two things together, let the reaction take place, and then just purify it. And I invented safe ways of purifying it that didn't involve things like ether and all that kind of nonsense that people use and are blowing themselves up with. So it was quite safe. It was also didn't smell. There was no characteristic odor or anything like that. I mean, I was watching this show, this television show called Breaking Something or Other.
Breaking Bad.
Yeah, their chemical descriptions were like 50% accurate and 50% fanciful. But the idea that that character on there developed his own chemistry and all that kind of stuff was, well, gee, I mean, they should pay me royalty, shouldn't they?
So you do this for a few years in the late 70s. How does it all come to a head?
The fellow that I dealt with the motorcycle gangs, was a bit of a wild man. He, for example, used to commit armed robberies just for the thrill of, not to steal anything, but just for the thrill of committing armed robberies. I mean, he was just a total, I'm not sure he was psychotic. He was definitely sociopathic. I mean, I describe myself as a total sociopath, and I've had psychotic episodes. Anyway, he got himself killed in a shootout. So that half of the business kind of went down the tubes because I didn't really feel like going in and dealing with the motorcycle gangs myself. And then on the other side, my Italian friend had started using the product himself, and he became increasingly unreliable. And business was taken care of by his wife, who was very good at keeping everything together. But then she just died very quickly of lung cancer at the age of 32. Anyhow, the business just drizzled out. I kind of got this feeling that, okay, I had a run, almost 2 years, made quite a few $1 million, and time to do something else.
What do you decide? Because you're still a fugitive.
Yeah, I was living in California, again, a house on top of a mountain in the foothills, and I had the FBI would make periodic sweeps trying to find me. I mean, I was never on their top 10 list or anything like that, but what they do was, for example, once a year, they get all of my father's phone records and they go through them and they track down every long distance call in and out to determine whether or not one of the calls was to me or from me or something like that, which it never was, even though I was in pretty good contact with my father the whole time.
How do you find that out?
At the time, there was a rule that 90 days after having done something like that, there was a legal obligation for the FBI to notify my father that, yes, they harvested his phone records and all that. I kind of had a handle on when they were doing a sweep, when they were looking for me. And I also had a couple other sources, not exactly from within the FBI itself, but along the edges, who would clue me in as to where they were in their investigation and how close they were to trying to find me. And the indications were about, again, at the end of 1979, they were getting close. They had figured I was on the West Coast, and it was probably only a matter of time before they found the house. So I established a new identity, which was difficult, easier then than it is now. It's almost impossible now. And my wife and I moved to New Zealand.
At what stage did you get married for a second time?
I guess we had been together for 5 or 6 years or something like that. We got married specifically because we needed a marriage license to get into New Zealand.
How did you choose New Zealand?
Well, I had written a book. This was 1977, 78, during the height of the second gasoline crisis. It was a book on alcohol fuel production. And I sold the book mail order through ads in Popular Science and Popular Mechanics and made quite a bit of money. well, New Zealand is a very big dairy country. And as part of the dairy industry, they have a very big cheese making industry. And a byproduct of cheese making is whey, the liquid residue from cheese making, which contains lactose, which is essentially a pollutant. It doesn't break down very easily biologically. So the idea was that I would go to New Zealand, build a distillery to process the lactose and the cheese whey, kind of sugar, into alcohol, which is what I did.
So how long were you hiding out in New Zealand?
Just about exactly 4 years. Left New Zealand in 1984.
During the 4 years that you were in New Zealand, did you ever manage to make it back to the US despite being an international fugitive?
Yeah, I made several trips back to the U.S.
And that was all on forged papers, I guess.
Yeah.
What made you leave New Zealand?
I left New Zealand because ran into a snag, and I was very, very, very close to being caught. I had to leave New Zealand without a pass. I had to travel internationally without a passport, which even back then was not easy to do.
And how did you know that you'd been found out?
I was coming back through customs, and they took my passport to examine it and didn't give it back.
So what did you do at that stage?
I made arrangements to very quickly leave the country. I figured I had about 3 or 4 days before the proverbial shit hit the fan. I got my son and my wife out of the country. They were able to travel under passports. And then I got myself out kind of by the skin of my teeth.
What happened to the distillery that you had?
I owned at the time 80%. So I signed over my 80%. So I never realized any of the profits or anything.
So what do you decide to do when you get back to the US? Now it's the mid-1980s.
Came back to the U.S. and settled in Orlando, Florida. I started a computer business. I programmed a number of computer games. The only idea was that I figured I would turn myself in and serve my time and get past this whole thing, because my son was 3 years old at the time. He was missing seeing his grandparents. His grandparents were missing seeing him. It's just not a good situation. So I thought I would just go to prison for a little bit and resolve it. So I set up these businesses, which I thought would provide my wife and son with a little bit of income while I was in jail.
How does one go about turning themselves into the authorities?
I made arrangements with a lawyer in Philadelphia to turn myself in. This was on a Monday. And at 4 a.m. that morning, the FBI came and arrested me in Orlando, which kind of killed my any chance of getting brownie points for turning myself in. I still don't quite know how that happened, but there was apparently some kind of a leak somewhere.
So they actually arrested you then for the outstanding warrant back in the 70s?
Yes.
Ouch. So what were the consequences of that then?
A 4-year prison sentence.
How much did you serve?
I guess at the time about 33 months.
Right. Okay. So almost 3 years then. What was prison like the second time around?
The first time around, there was a total of 23,000 federal prisoners in the U.S. Now there is 12 or 13 times that amount.
Wow.
So back then it was prison is prison. I mean, it's not like you're in some sort of South American hellhole or something like that. And federal prisons tend to be fairly civilized. You just kind of establish an existence and get through it. It's always harder on families and people on the outside because they have to fend for themselves.
Yeah. How did your wife fare with the computer businesses you'd set up?
No, they kind of they all failed. That did not work out the way it was planned. But her family and my family got together and we got through it.
What was the reaction of your parents to being on the run? Because you said earlier you'd managed to stay in touch with your father, for instance.
My relationship with my father was that we never, ever agreed about anything politically, especially World War II and the Vietnam War and all that kind of stuff. But on the other side of the coin, it was always absolutely, totally apparent that he loved me and I loved him, and he always did everything he could to support me. I mean, when I was a kid and got into trouble, he would always stand up for me and pretty much get me out of whatever trouble I was in with the authorities or anything like that. But then when we got home, he'd invoke his own punishment, which a lot of times make me wish that he hadn't. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but he was just fiercely protected. If anybody's going to discipline his son, it was going to be him.
Was it physical punishment in those days?
I mean, every once in a while, he would threaten to do this stylized thing where, go out in the orchard and cut yourself a birch and go wait for me. And he was always stylized about it. He'd say, go wait in the barn. And I remember he came out to the barn and I was sitting there sharpening an axe. I had the axe on my lap and a sharpening stone, and I was sharpening it. And he stood at the doorway, looked at me, and I looked up at him. And I said, Dad, I think I'm a little too old for this kind of punishment. And he...
Are you still there, Chris?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Nodded his head in agreement and said, okay, you're grounded for 6 months, which made me say, oh, no, come, please come beat the shit out of me. Because we lived in the country, and without a car, being a teenager without a car was like, no punishment could possibly be worse than that.
What was the effect of being a fugitive on your wife and you?
In general, I loved being a fugitive. It was just one big game after another. It was just totally exciting. I mean, it's kind of like, who am I going to be today? I walk into a bank and I freeze I'd have to think, who the hell am I today? And I just loved it. It was the opposite of her. She was all the while, all the 8 years that we were fugitives, she's the one who kept it all together. She was the practical one. She was the one who kept me from making big mistakes. She was the one who kind of the sea anchor. After it was all over and I'd served my jail time, I'd gotten out of jail. We were living in Northeast Philadelphia. I had gotten a good job as the IT director of a large company. It was making good money. Everything was great. She started using prescription painkillers and that, and ended up killing herself. So it's like all the while things were bad, she held it together. Then when things were good, she fell apart.
What was the effect of her passing on you?
Oh, it's complicated. I mean, my son was 7 at the time. He was in the room when she died. He didn't realize what had happened. My basic fundamental reaction was and is anger.
Yeah.
Because, she kind of bailed out, left me with a kid to raise by myself, and it's a whole bag of emotions there.
Did you miss the steadying influence that she had in the early days?
I don't know. I mean, I think if she would have kept herself together and we had been partners, then that probably would have greatly influenced what I did in subsequent years. But the last year of our existence together was just horrible. I mean, I would go to work during the day and never know what was happening, whether she'd be driving the car stoned out of her mind, whether she was taking care of her son or not. I mean, she just completely went down the tubes, and I was either in denial or ineffective in whatever I did. So.
All right. Iggy Pop's coming back on. Let me remove it. Get through Iggy. Okay, so now he's asking him how he got back into filmmaking in the 90s.
Idea for some films, which eventually became the Lovers series. I had no contacts in the area, and a friend of mine knew Candace and introduced us. I made the first 2 films in the Lovers series that she ended up distributing.
The combination of you and Candido Royale would seem an unlikely combination in some ways, as Candida's company was geared to producing erotica for a female audience.
The idea of having a male make films for femme was something not even thought of. I mean, Veronica Vera wrote a really funny review of the situation where she said something that the wolf is loose in the hen house and going to see whether I get pecked to death or I come out with feathers in my teeth.
So how do you go about making a porn film for females?
Well, I didn't. I made it for me. They were not so much porn films, or they were totally explicit sexually, but they were films about relationships. The one film I made with myself and my girlfriend at the time was kind of about what they call a May-December relationship. The other film was about an artist and his girlfriend, a stripper, but they were about the relationships. They weren't about fucking, although there's a lot of fucking involved. I mean, that was kind of a new thing.
How were the films received?
It never, to this day, never really caught on. AVN did a review where 2 people reviewed the films. One was Kathy Tavel, and another was a staff reviewer at AVN. Kathy loved the films, gave them like 5 stars, and the reviewer from AVN gave it like about half a star and said that he couldn't jack off to it. He lost his Woody while he was watching it. And so that kind of underscored the difference.
What was the aesthetic of the film?
The films would start with talking head interviews where each lover describes the other and describes the relationship. And then it kind of goes back and forth, point, counterpoint, he said, she said. A lot of ironies where one person will say one thing and the other person will say something that completely undermines or disagrees with it. And very, very interesting in the psychological standpoint of the relationships.
You later made appearances in front of the camera in the series The Streets of New York. What do you remember about how this series came about?
The concept for Streets of New York, I believe, originated with Rick Savage. Rick was the talent. He was the on-camera talent. And Neville was the person behind the camera.
And that was Neville Chambers.
Neville Chambers, yes. And Rick kind of bowed out after, I believe, the 5th or 6th episode in the series. And Neville took it over.
And what's the overall concept behind it?
The concept was outrageous public sex. One of the classic scenes from one of the early episodes was Rick having sex with this girl in a snowbank along the East River Drive with cars going by in the background, and they're having sex in the snow. I mean, it's just like, just this totally wonderful, outrageous scene. But we filmed anywhere and everywhere around the city.
And how dangerous was it in terms of getting caught?
Oh, in all the years of doing it, never got caught. Came close a couple times.
And how did you get involved?
I met Neville when I started making the Lover series for Candida Royale. So Neville and I became friends. And when Neville took over the series, I stepped in every once in a while on the talent side because I just love doing it. I mean, I love doing sex in public, and I like to think that I was actually good at it and facilitated the filming because of my supposed talent for having a constant, readily available erection. That kind of removed the whole performance question from the equation, and we could concentrate on more and more outrageous situations.
You mentioned Neville Chambers. Isn't he a cult figure in the world of rock and roll?
Neville is another colorful character. He's well known for having been the head road manager for The Who and also for Jimi Hendrix. So he came through the music industry.
Let's talk a little bit about the logistics of filming sex and how to capture sexual excitement on film, especially when shooting in public places like in the streets of New York. What do you do as a performer, for example?
Maybe I can describe a situation. One of the very first women that I ever had sex with was named Alice Harvey. That was a scene for Neville and Rick Savage. And Alice was probably absolute best sex I ever had. And I think Neville filmed for at least a couple hours. Now, I had the occasion just recently to look at some of that footage, and it was horrible. I mean, I was enjoying the hell out of myself, and Neville was kind of wandering around, trying to poke the camera here and there, trying to see what was going on. And he couldn't because I was so busy enjoying myself. I wasn't paying any attention at all to him or the camera. And the end result was you couldn't see anything other than my ass flopping up and down in the air. That was an example of having sex for the sake of having sex, and there happened to be a camera present. It lacked any of the aspects of performance art. One thing that Candida Royale said was that she always believed that if people were having great sex and it was being filmed, then you get great sex on film. And I absolutely, totally disagree with that. In order to have great sex on film, it's like any other kind of film. You have to pay all kinds of attention to detail, to what's going on. I mean, anytime people happen to catch like a live event on camera, an accident or even a murder or something like that, it's usually very boring and anticlimactic. But when it's done in a film in slow motion and all that kind of stuff, and it has much more visual impact.
So you're saying there's little connection between good sex and good sex on film?
Yeah, performing sex for a camera has absolutely nothing to do with sex.
Can you talk about how a scene from the streets of New York would be set up and filmed?
We go out filming, look for a suitable location, something usually with people around, but with a place where you could get camera angles that sort of showed people in the background, but they couldn't really see and things like that. Neville would be nearby with the camera, usually working from a little bit of a distance. There'd be a spotter looking up and down the street for the police, and then you'd have to perform on camera. And to perform on camera, you have to have an erection to begin with. You have to be able to watch Neville or the camera out of one corner of your eye, make sure that the action is visible, that the angles work, that there's enough light on the scene. In other words, that what you're doing can be captured. You have to keep your other eye totally aware for any impending trouble, like somebody looking through a window calling the police or something like that, or one eye standing on guard duty. And then on top of that, you have to actually kind of perform according to some kind of contextual situation. You have to come up with the performance art part of it. So it's like this whole circus going on, and the sex is really almost superfluous, even though that's the point of the whole thing.
How enjoyable was it then?
It was fun. It was exciting. It was fun. And the most important thing is to get in, get it done quickly, and get out before you got arrested. So the last thing you could ever do is stand around, waiting for wood or waiting to get a hard on or anything like that.
Having said that, you were, I guess, in your early 50s when you started appearing on the streets of New York?
Yeah, I performed in that into my 60s at least, yeah. The last professional film I made was a music video with Audrey Hollander in 2005, which I guess I would have been, 62 then.
And how does it feel to be older, but still working in the sex film industry?
Oh, there she is.
It becomes a bit of a frustration. I mean, boy, I walk down the street and I see all these absolutely breathtakingly gorgeous, lovely women who are no longer accessible to me, totally off limits now. That's something that's very difficult to get used to, because if I stay away from mirrors, I can easily convince myself that I'm still 18.
In 2006, you made a notorious film called Snuff. What are your memories of that?
My friend Lorelei, who was in the film with me, kind of got the idea of doing an experimental real-time film. I think there might have been something in the news about a serial killer who had filmed himself and that kind of stuff that gave a kernel of the idea. But we got together and made the film in one afternoon, pretty much in real time, just the two of us, no crew or anything like that. Did it exactly as though I were the serial killer and she was the victim. I would be filming her. So it's very much an experimental film, but it's also a chillingly realistic horror film. Her performance in it as a victim was completely flawless and believable. And I, of course, was kind of a natural as a perverted serial killer. It wasn't much of a stretch at all.
It's a controversial film because of the combination of sex and the violence towards the female character. What's your response to that?
That was about relationships. The Lovers films were about relationships. If you skip ahead to the Slaves film, that film is about women who voluntarily engage in abusive relationships. They engage in abusive relationships because that is what they want. And the point of the whole film is they all have the choice to leave, but they choose to stay. There's what I...
So Slaves is the film. Oh, no, that's not the film with the... Let me see which one that is.
That is
The one he's...
deleted scenes.
Hold on, I'm trying to see who's in this. It doesn't say who the female in this movie is. Okay. All right.
I consider a poignant scene where Lorelai orchestrates her own beating, instructing the character that I play when to hit her, where to hit her, and how hard. She completely controls her whole beating. And to me, that's like a deep, deep psychological underscore that the whole film was about why these relationships exist and why women enter into them.
What's your take on the psychology behind this?
I have maybe an hour and a half interview with Amy, the girl who plays Zyla, and she's sitting on the bed and explaining why she constantly dates men who treat her badly. And the bottom line of what she's saying is that, look, I know that I'm a piece of shit. So if I date a nice guy who treats me well, tells me what a great human being and that kind of stuff I am.
Amy's one of the missing women.
Really?
Yeah.
I know he's lying. I know that he doesn't love me because he doesn't even see who I am. Meanwhile, if I date a guy who treats me badly, at least he knows who I am. That is about the reasons behind it. Okay, the sex in Slaves is really nasty, but the film still is not about the sex.
What about the accusations of misogyny that have been directed to you because of your work?
I have a reputation for being a misogynist, but I'm absolutely not. I don't even know how to, maybe to use an example. If you have a photographer who goes to wherever, Darfur or something like that, and comes back with photographs of starving children, it is not assumed that, wow, this guy went to Darfur and took pictures of starving children, therefore he is interested in promoting the starvation of children, or he gets off on starving children. But when I do a depiction of, okay, here's someone who is in an abusive relationship, it's assumed that somehow I get off on the abusive relationships. I really get upset by the totally childish, simplistic, one-dimensional view that Western civilization seems to have of sex. How can an entire country of millions of people be so childish?
You mentioned earlier that you consider yourself a sociopath in some ways. What do you mean by that?
It goes back as long as I can remember. I do not like society. I do not like civilization. Individual human beings I can like, admire, even love, but the human race and what we call civilization are something that I really despise. I mean, if you were captured by some aliens on a spaceship or something like that and given a choice, would you really, really want to be treated in a humane manner? I mean, would you really elect to have these aliens treat you the way that human beings treat each other? And I know I certainly wouldn't.
So what is it you think about the human race you don't like on a day-to-day basis?
Human beings go on and on about their intelligence, but the main way of settling a dispute or an argument was and always has been and continues to be violence. What human beings are, how they act, is completely at odds with their self-view. I mean, right now, here in Philadelphia and other places in the country, funding is being cut to schools. What kind of society is going to survive by sabotaging the lives of its youth?
Is your depression made worse by this bleak worldview?
Well, I have monumental problems with depression, but it has nothing to do with the worldview. In fact, when you say you're depressed, the first question that comes out of people's minds are, why are you depressed? That is such a stupid question. Would you go up to somebody who has cancer and say, well, why do you have cancer? People confuse with some sort of situational despondency or something like that. I'm sad because my wife ran off with my best friend in my pickup truck, and the worst part was my dog was in the back, and therefore I'm feeling sad. That's not depression. That's despondency. Depression is an imbalance in brain chemistry or something like that. And depression is just as likely to hit me on a sunny day when I'm happy and everything's going right than it is when any tragedy or anything like that is happening.
Have you suffered from depression for a long time?
Yeah, probably all my life. The older I get, the worse it gets. I think my paternal grandfather died of it.
How debilitating do you find it?
Again, this is kind of a complicated question. I've mostly learned to live with it. Antidepressants don't work for me. Things like Prozac totally preclude any kind of sexual activity. You take Prozac and forget about sex. So the trade-off was I'd rather be depressed than do without sex, because doing without sex it'd be depressing enough in itself. So I just kind of learned to live with it. When I'm down, I don't fight. I just roll with it. And when I'm up or manic, I get things done.
Is there any sense that some of the crazier things you've done have been linked to this and perhaps to your desire to really feel something?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a total adrenaline junkie. I mean, everything from flying and risky occupations, making risky films, doing risky artwork.
So you think that the constant reinvention and change in your life has been a good thing?
I probably would have missed a lot of experiences that otherwise I wouldn't have had.
Yeah.
So I'm glad for the variety. I'm glad that I've probably had at least a dozen different careers in my life and been successful in some of them. I'm even glad for my experiences in prison, because that taught me this whole aspect of life that I otherwise wouldn't have known. I guess it's the philosophical rationalization that even bad experiences can be productive. Or I think the catchphrase is that whatever experience doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Does that mean you don't have any regrets?
I have things that I would like to be able to do over, but regrets, yeah, I have certain regrets. The regrets I have to do with people that along the way I might have treated badly. I kind of would like the opportunity to go back and make things better.
How did you come to be growing marijuana on your property in recent years?
Functioning as an artist into the realm of being an artist full-time and also making films, which is very expensive. I did not want to take the time out to earn a living, and I certainly didn't want to compromise my artwork by any kind of crass commercial overtones. I considered an artist who creates for money to be analogous to a whore, and I always considered myself much more of a slut in that I would rather give it away. So I started growing pot as a means to support my artistic obsessions.
So you'd actually grow it and distribute it from your house?
Well, I grew it. I certainly didn't distribute it from there. Same as when I was making amphetamines, I simply wholesaled it. Most of it went through 2 oncology groups to cancer patients, although I made a comfortable living from it. But the main purpose, and also the original purpose, was to provide medical marijuana.
You set up this in the basement of your house in a sort of hydroponic facility?
Yeah, it was a very sophisticated operation, completely, totally hidden. I mean, I had people living in my house who had no idea what was going on.
How was it discovered?
What happened in the end was a fluke. I had a young lady living with me, and I was away from the house for a period of time, and she apparently became convinced that there was a burglar or something like that prowling around the house, and she called the police. She had no idea what was in the basement or anything like that, but one thing led to another, and the operation was discovered.
Just how big was it then?
Not sure what's beyond the statute of limitations here. It was a large, sophisticated operation designed for continuous output.
And you had it going for a few years, I guess.
So they say, yes.
So what happened then? You returned home, presumably, and were arrested?
Yes. Yep. I returned home. I never entered that house again. I lost everything. I mean, everything I had was lost, including computers, cameras, everything.
Did the fact that you have a history of making adult films, pornography, count against you in the trial at all?
No, it was certainly a part of their investigation. You know, they were convinced that I was trafficking in women and prostitution and all this kind of stuff.
So how long did you end up serving?
4.5 years. The federal system doesn't give you hardly any time off for good behavior anymore, so I did almost the whole 4.5 years.
That seems steep, especially given the move towards medical marijuana in a number of states at the moment. What was your reaction to the length of the sentence?
It informs my view of society, and that I do not feel that anything that I've done rises to the level of criminal behavior. I have never stolen from anyone. I've never hurt anyone. At the time when the crime was committed, Obama was just coming into office and pledging support for medical marijuana and all that kind of stuff, and is busy killing people in Pakistan with drone aircraft.
What impact did the fact that it attracted quite a lot of publicity have on you?
Well, I mean, everybody knows about it. I cannot deny or hide that or any part of my past. In other words, I can't pretend that it never happened, or I can't pretend that I'm anything other than a sociopathic villain, you might say. Sometimes I think of ways to turn it to my advantage.
How so?
I tend to play the part or play up the part of being a villain. Yeah, I mean, I tend to try to get some mileage out of it. I figure, why not? I'm not getting any mileage out of anything else.
What's the toughest part of being in jail for you?
The most horrible part isn't necessarily the physical confinement, but it's the total isolation and boredom. There's no way to pursue any kind of artistic endeavors in prison except for writing, which I did. I wrote 4 or 5 books in prison, which I published recently.
What has your writing been about?
One of the big problems, I guess, was a book that I wrote with one of my ex-wives. The book was her memoir of when she was growing up. And when she was growing up, she became sexually active. At 14, she was working as a stripper, and the book is about her sexuality. And apparently, you're not allowed to write about, even if it's your own sexuality, you can't write about it if you're under 18. So it's about her pubescent sexuality, and that was banned for content because you're not allowed to talk about it.
When you were arrested for the pot growing business, I lost contact with you and remember reading subsequently that you'd been arrested for supposedly luring an underage girl into your car. What was behind that story?
That was like a very, very weird situation. I'm driving down a crowded street on a Friday evening in rush hour, and there's this kid coming out from between 2 parked cars. So I stop, motion to them to cross in front of me, and at the same time, somebody from the curb calls to the kid, and the kid goes back to the sidewalk, and I drive on. 2 hours later, I'm passing back through the same section of town, and I get arrested and charged with, quote, trying to lure a child into my car. I mean, it's just a totally weird, fabricated thing. It eventually came out that, and this was a 9-year-old girl, was not allowed to cross the street, and she had crossed the street to go to a 7-Eleven, and this whole thing was a story that was made up and augmented by her mother because she didn't want to get into trouble. And eventually the charges were dropped, expunged, and I was exonerated. But there is a record of the arrest on one page, and then on the next page down, the disposition where the charges were dropped. But apparently this one newspaper writer only read the first page and put that in an article, which has caused all sorts of problems ever since whenever it surfaces.
That kind of accusation can be really difficult to shake.
I mean, without even looking up official records or anything like that, it's very easy to determine that it's not true because all you have to do is go to the state sex offender list and you won't find my name there. So,
Okay, I'm almost afraid to ask, but what have you got planned next in life?
Good question. I mean, the problem is that my life has been one big unfocused ramble, and I have no idea what's coming next. I'm trying to court a gallery to exhibit my photographs. I'm trying to establish myself as an artist, which isn't going to happen.
And why do you think it's not going to happen?
Art galleries are in business largely to make money. They sell pictures, and very few people are going to take a photograph of a wasted, emaciated heroin junkie and hang it over their sofa. I produce what might be considered an artistically valuable product, but certainly not a commercially viable product.
And you're still as motivated by sex as you've always been?
Despite the fact that I'm 70 years old, I'm still horny as hell. The problem is I have no fantasies left. I can't think of anything that I haven't done in a sexual sense. So there's really nothing left to excite me, except perhaps for the one thing that I've never really gotten around to doing in a sexual sense, which is what they call making love.
The ultimate taboo.
Well, I know all about sex, but I know nothing about making love.
That must feel strange.
Actually, it's pathetic, but
Do you think that's a negative consequence sometimes of pushing the boundaries to their limits, in that sometime you will run out of places to go?
yeah, it's a real concern. On the other hand, I kind of have the confidence that if I look hard enough, I'll always be able to find an extreme that I haven't experienced. There's something out there.
Would it concern you if you ever received mainstream acclaim?
Disturb me? No, I probably enjoy it.
You wouldn't sabotage it?
Oh, I'd probably sabotage it, yeah.
All right. That's the end of it. Did you fall asleep?
No, I'm not asleep.
I
I'm
can't.
listening to it. And then sometimes my eyes start to close because I'm staring at a screen for an hour and a half. Like I was just listening to it.
You fall asleep easily, so I wasn't sure.
No, I have a very good recollection of pretty much everything he talked about. That was way more information than I expected to get about Raymond Horsch at once. But
Yeah, I kind of overloaded you, right?
yeah, it's interesting though because the title of the interview was sociopathic villain. I thought that was like okay.
That's how he describes himself.
Right. That's what I was getting at. Like I thought that title was put on by like another true crime type person who was like saw the writing on the wall and was like, "Oh, this guy is actually a sociopathic." No, it's just the title of the interview because that's what he talks about, being potentially a sociopath and how he associates himself with villains.
I really want to do this Reckless Ben, but we've been at it for like 2 hours. So I think we're just going to do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I have some funny videos that we can watch. Well, not all of them are funny.
I have one thing.
What is it?
It's a surprise. You want to hear about it?
Sure.
Okay. This is in science news today.
Okay.
So this was reported in Nature on August 12th. I don't know if you've heard Nature before. Nature's a science journal, very well respected. And on August 12th, astronomers reported something they are referring to as a black hole star.
Ooh.
It's not a conventional star. What it actually is, it's a young, massive black hole wrapped in an extended envelope of hydrogen. So the whole system, it glows basically in the sky. Okay. Yeah. So a normal star, gets its energy through nuclear fusion, like a pressure and temperature combine in its core. And so it becomes high enough for light nuclei to combine and releases the energy. It works its way out through the star. That's not what this is at all. This is matter is falling into the black hole. And as it falls into the black hole and it heats up and spirals inwards, some of that gets converted into radiation, and all of the hydrogen picks up the radiation, and it comes out like in a glow. So James Webb has been seeing these little tiny red dots, and that's what they think these tiny red dots are. They're these black holes surrounded by hydrogen that are about the size of combined. It's about the size of a solar system. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. The article's in Nature. It's very technical and dense. So, maybe read about it somewhere else, like a magazine that talks about it. I tried to read the article in Nature. It was difficult. It requires a lot of understanding.
I'll read about it on my own.
Okay.
But it's interesting to me, so I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm ready for some funnies.
Well, they're not all funny.
Because sometimes you're like, I've got the funnies, and then it's like a guy holding people up in a car.
You're going to like this. It's the title. It says, "Man is not good at doing things."
Why would I like that? I appreciate excellence only.
Oh, I'm always saying that men aren't good at stuff. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, look at this.
Oh, come on, man.
Oh, they getting it, y'all.
Oh, and it's gonna fall all the way
It's a
down.
female driver.
Oh.
I can see. You talking about with the camera down there.
That's a problem.
Get from up out of there.
I know. She needs to get out of there.
Oh,
my
whoa. Not good.
Is she okay?
He made it worse.
She okay?
Is she okay?
Yes, she okay. She okay.
He's running down there. He completely.
But it was somebody else in the car.
Oh my goodness. Is they okay?
She okay. The driver's okay. I don't know about the other person.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, look.
They're not even going to stop and get out to see if anybody's okay.
That guy made that completely worse.
All right. This one is called SWAT Getting Swatted.
Okay.
I have seen this video so many freaking times today. Like, it's everywhere.
I haven't seen it.
Well, you're going to see the SWAT getting swatted. Well, that's what I call it. That's not really what this is. Are you ready?
Yeah. Oh, no.
Hold on.
It's like a cartoon.
Hold on.
Like, hold position. Look where you're gonna go.
We're all like laying on top of each other and just kind of like going like this. It's a lot of angles.
Yeah. All right, this one is called Best of K-Shred.
Oh, I'm excited to see that.
I'm excited to show it to you because he's awesome. You ready? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the main objection is that it's inaccurate. We are objecting to items.
Did you have a copy maybe that you could look at?
Oh, I have a copy.
Yeah.
Approach you with
Yeah.
this.
I'd just like to know the purpose of yes.
If we can just approach the
I don't want to go to the sidebar. I really don't want to go to the sidebar. I want to tell you that they got picked up on a hot mic saying shut her up during the playing of that autopsy.
rules that forensic psychiatrists and psychologists follow.
You're not looking for the name of the priest who went back there, are you?
Father Bob.
What, I mean,
That's it? That's your testimony?
Objection.
no, overall.
Condition, when they see the, let me finish.
Which appears to factually have the same numbered paragraphs.
K-Shred's great.
I know he's the best.
Yeah.
This one I just titled "Eh." So we're gonna listen to this guy and we're gonna do what he says. Okay.
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 Have a look at this image. You'll see that both of the animals are the wrong colours, but I'm going to control your brain and make you fix this yourself. Keep staring at this black cross. Don't look away from it. Try not to blink if you can help it. And also keep your phone an equal distance away from your face. That should strengthen the illusion. You're going to see colours that aren't actually there. In just a second, I'm going to take all the colour away from this image. It's just going to be a black and white cartoon, but you will see the pig in bright pink and the frog in bright green. Just keep focused on the black cross. We need to keep staring at it for a little bit longer. The longer you stare at the cross, the stronger the illusion is. Just another 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Keep looking at that black cross. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to take all the colour from the image now. Keep staring at the black cross. You're looking at a black and white cartoon, but you should be seeing the animals in their correct colours. This is such a weird illusion. Let me know if it
Did it work for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird, right?
Yeah. How does that work?
I don't know because I can just like move my eyes and I'm like, oh yeah, this is in black and white. And then move them back.
Like I have to be staring at the cross or the X, whatever, however he's British, so I guess it's a cross. I stare at the cross, and then when he turns off the color, I see the colors.
Yeah,
I
me
see the
too.
pink. But then if I look away a little bit, if I lose focus of the cross, it goes back to
Right.
black and white.
Yeah.
It's
I don't
almost
know
like
how it
those.
works.
It's almost like those pictures from the '90s where you had to stare at it, and then you saw
The,
like
ma-
the 3D
the, ma-
images.
the magic eye.
Yeah, I
No,
love
that
those.
was more complicated because you kind of had to cross your eyes and shift focus.
Yeah, you had to do a certain kind of
while.
focus, but if you let go of the focus, it would go back to just being
Right.
a flat image. It's same thing with that. Like if I focus hard enough, I see the colors, but if I let it go, it went away.
So Mars Curiosity sent us some images of the night sky.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
Mars rover.
Yeah, Curiosity. This looks like AI,
on.
but it isn't.
You sure about
Let
that?
me. No, who knows? Are you ready? Okay, I'm guessing you're ready. I'm shutting the music off. Are you on mute, Chris?
I was not when I said I was ready.
I didn't hear it. Look at that.
That's crazy.
No light pollution. You're on Mars.
That's true. That's really true. Could you imagine if that's what we saw at night with no light pollution?
I mean, if you're like out in the middle of nowhere, the sky looks a lot different.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. All right, what else do I have? Oh, this one's called Hidden Danger.
We'll see the hidden danger.
Okay.
Oh shit.
Alligator's Hidden Danger.
Look at that gator. He's hanging out with him. It was like sleeping with him.
Oh, I keep seeing videos of this. So there's a body cam of a Marine pilot after he ejected from an FA-18 that crashed into a Washington State mountainside.
Oh wow.
So it's a deputy going up to the Marine pilot after he crash landed, but he ejected. So, parachute.
Yeah.
Didn't get blown up with the plane.
That's good.
Yeah. Let me know when it's up.
It's up.
Okay. Let me see. Parachute laceration.
Yeah, it looks like I went through some trees and whatever.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, Jackson, I'm glad you're safe. I'm gonna let you go. All right, man. Thank you very much for the help. I'm with the sheriff.
Oh, it's ours, and I'm out with the pilot right now.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we're on the backside of Rimrock, kind of by South Fork Bear Cove area. Their fire and aid's on their way right now. We got the hillside on fire where the jet landed. What kind of jet is that?
That's an F-18. That was
An F-18. I heard you guys.
Yep, we were doing circles over the lake, doing in some low-level training.
Okay.
And then I tucked in, and I'm not sure exactly. Honestly, I'm a little.
Nope. You're fine.
When I tucked in,
You hit the tree bad, bud.
I went through the trees.
Oh my goodness. He looks
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, he got hit with all the trees on the way down. All right, this I can't play with any sound. I made myself a special note. Let me get this to the beginning.
No copyright infringement
Well,
around here.
I don't care, honestly, but
We'll get the channel taken down.
hold on. I said no sound, and then I played sound. I thought I had it off.
The guy's got a goose
Yeah.
and a dog. Oh no! Get in there! No! Leave his goose friend. Hey, get back in there with that goose.
It's so weird.
It is weird, but that man was not paying enough attention to that goose. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Oh. This one's weird because it's about a company that's shutting down, but I'm like, I thought they shut down a long time ago.
Really?
Yeah, so I was just confused that they still existed. So I'm not sad that they're shutting down because I had
Yeah,
already
because
said
you
it's
already
like
said your lies.
it's like if somebody told me, "Oh, Blockbuster Video's shutting down." I'm like, "Didn't they do that like 20 years ago?"
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. I had that moment.
Oh.
Recognize the phrase 8 CDs for a penny. I have generational news for you tonight. After 71 years and a transition from vinyl to tapes to CD, Columbia House is no more. They once had 16 million members, but streaming killed the mail order star. Last day for orders, September 15th. If
7 records or tapes for 7 cents? $1? Whatever it was. I don't remember it being that cheap when I was young.
I keep seeing
I think
videos
it
of
was like
this.
$20.
Some guy wearing a Chucky mask was like terrorizing people.
Why?
Like, and some lady like kicked his ass.
Is there a video of this?
There's a video of the lady who kicked his ass.
Yeah.
Jamaica says she screamed for help, hit him in the chest, and was prepared to try to fight him off.
He just seemed about what his goals actually were. Like, I had bags. He wasn't reaching for those. It didn't seem like he had a clear goal to like actually get in La Colombe to do anything. So I was like, okay, well, let's see if you can fight. And he couldn't.
Police believe the man attempted to antagonize at least 6 people, including men and employees at nearby businesses, and indicated he had a weapon, but witnesses have not reported seeing one.
If caught, police say the suspect is facing multiple charges, including terroristic threats, simple assault, and intimidation.
You recognize that person? He's wanted.
Do I recognize him?
I was kidding because he's wearing the mask. You can't possibly
Oh.
recognize him.
That was in Philly, huh?
That's all I have.
Oh, really?
I'm done. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, let's do it tomorrow.
All right. Bye.